please give a lovely warm welcome to Matthew. Matthew, take it away.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if anybody used to watch Stars in the Rise with Matthew Kelly, but every time it says tonight, Matthew. So, but yeah, thanks everybody for coming out. I start every PowerPoint presentation with, I hope it's not death via PowerPoint. So I will try and throw in some audience participation. It would be great if you did participate, but if you don't, I will just press on regardless and try and shake it off. So, yes, Tom mentioned there, talk is around building a culture where technology teams thrive and actually deliver. Because all my time in technology, which we'll get into, what I've seen is business leaders kind of go, oh, technology team, they just don't deliver. They're working away and they seem quite happy, but they just don't deliver. Whether that's true or not, it's a different matter, but so it's important that you build the right culture with teams that actually deliver. So, a little bit about me to start with. Yep, there I am. For those that may have connected with me on LinkedIn a while ago, I did use AI and actually created a Muppet version of myself, which actually was pretty good, and it got a bit of feedback, which was nice. But yeah, so I'm Matthew Carr, also kind of known as the agility guy, because I have a focus on business agility around technology. But two things: fixing delivery around wider businesses, building culture. Two things I'm very passionate about. I've been in technology 25 years, believe it or not. I started life as a software engineer, and I worked through various different roles. I think my last permanent role, Global Director of Architecture and Engineering, had 180 people, kind of directly and indirectly in me. It was a great role, but I moved on to become an independent consultant, or as some people might have seen, the Gordon Ramsay of the technology world. Because I go into businesses like his kitchen nightmares, and I kind of turn around the tech function. I don't swear as much as Gordon. I think I'm a little nicer. But I think the swearing may come out after the door was opened by my gentleman over there. So what do I do, or what do I try to do? Build environments where people can do the best work. Because if people come into work motivated and they can do the best work, the rest kind of follows. Obviously you need strategy as well, but I don't want to go over that. As I mentioned, I've had the pleasure of working in small startups of kind of 5 people, which have grown. And I've also worked for a private equity-backed startup that we managed to turn for 212 million, which was really interesting. You learn a lot about dynamics of people and leaders and everything else like that going through there. And I've also, as I mentioned, 3 billion turnover global business where I managed up to 180. So different ends of the spectrum, but this all still applies in my view. I'm a runner, although I don't look like it at the moment. I haven't run in a while. Craft ale drinker. Cat lover? Yeah. Thank you. I'll pay you later. Appreciate that. However, I do always get feedback on that slide. Does that mean you eat cats? Well, no. No, I am a fan of cats. And authentically me. To this day, I don't know what that means. But in the different organisations I've worked for, you've been put through your different Myers-Briggs, Insight, Enneagram, all the things you do, and apparently I'm an authentic person, so it's a good thing. So, actually down to the talk. Why do some tech teams feel energised and productive, while others feel trapped in endless cycles of chaos? Does that ChatGPT image resonate with anybody? Has anybody worked in a team like that, worked in a business like that? Yeah, me too. Yeah, I've also seen the same people in the same business in a different team or different department work completely differently. And it's never sunshine and rainbows, but not far off it. So what I'm going to talk about today is kind of why that is, in my view, and what I've done, how I've tried to improve it and change it around for the better. But there's no silver bullet, regardless of how many consultants tell you there is. And if you buy their framework, if you buy them for a month, 2 months, whatever, they'll fix it all. There isn't. But there's always options. And it's a bit of a dark kind of sentence that. There are always options, and options have consequences. Sounds like something a mobster would say. But we're dealing with humans, and every situation is different. And you pick an option, you try something, but there will be a reaction to it, positive or negative, but they always are. So that's one thing I always have at the back of my mind when you're speaking to people or talking about change or looking to fix things or change things. Every option you choose or thing you try has good and bad consequences. So why do so many tech teams struggle? Well, you've always seen, everybody's seen that man before. The amount of times, oh, it's fine, it's all right, oh, we'll get through it, we don't need a strategy. We do, with the deadline's approaching, it's all right until it's not. But there'll be people saying it's not all right, but nobody listens. And then you get around the meeting table and everybody's pointing fingers at each other and everybody's not particularly happy. So why do we think that is? Time for a bit of audience participation. There's no one answer to this or wrong answer to this, but if that sounds familiar, why do people think teams get in that situation? Politics, yep, absolutely. I think
sometimes I don't feel safe to admit there's maybe things aren't fine.
Yeah.
Psychological
safety. Yeah, I'll give you that. Anything more?
Teams aren't understanding so if the teams aren't trusted with the overall where we're trying to get to and understand what those constraints are, they don't know when to go, hey, we've got a challenge here. So they think it's fine because they don't know otherwise.
Yeah.
Because they've not been given that context.
Absolutely. So there's contact, trust, politics, psychological safety.
I would say leadership. If they don't trust, well, still connects to what you said.
Yeah.
They don't trust if the tech teams don't trust the leadership so well, so they stay reserved and whatever is pushed to them.
Absolutely. So they check out.
They haven't worked out how to perform well as a team.
Yeah. Team dynamics, not working together as a team. One more.
Lack of ownership or autonomy.
Yeah, completely. So moving on. So I try to change that, as I said before. Build environments where people can do the best work. I know it's a common theme. I can't trademark that. Apparently other people use it, but I have tried. But actually, culture. Everything you said there comes back to culture. Because if you walk into work and you're trusted, and you're psychologically safe, and everybody can work on together, you're autonomous, you know what you want to do. We've all seen teams that don't have to have user stories that are a million lines long, a core basic's perfectly written. You just give them a challenge and they get it done. Because the culture's there, because they want to work with each other. They want to get on, they can flag up when things aren't right. So, Peter Drucker there, the famous phrase, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And
Didn't actually compare slides.
no, he didn't. But I genuinely do believe that, although strategy is very important. But gentleman there mentioned leadership. And yes, I believe culture all starts from the top. You can try from the bottom up, but if leadership isn't there or they're not believed or haven't got the trust, it just fails. So Jim Rohn, Canadian guy, I think he's passed now. He was brilliant at kind of motivational speech and taught about leadership and the challenges of it. And I'm going to go through it a little bit, but I won't bore people too much. But if you're thinking about a leader in your organisation or what type of leadership you want to be, but you need to be strong but not rude, bold but not a bully, because people say, well, we need strong leadership. Yeah, but you can be rude to people. No, don't want to just get that done or whatever. You've got to understand how to talk to people, but be a strong leader. Be bold, but not a bully. I think we all know a leader that comes across as a bully because they're trying to be bold, they're trying to push, but they're doing it too hard, they're doing it incorrectly. Thoughtful, but not lazy. How many times have people heard the question, leave that with me or I'll take that away? And you just never hear it again. It just disappears. Humble, but not timid. Because it should be all about the team. Oh yeah, we've done really well there. But not timid that you won't speak up or you won't say when things are wrong. Proud but not arrogant. How many people do we know the leaders thinks it's all about them? And it should be all about the team. And you can be funny and have a bit of humour, but I think folly's probably more of an American or Canadianism. But obviously you don't want to play the clown. You have a leader who's a bit funny, a bit quick-witted, But if you start being a bit too stupid or a bit too acting the clown, people lose respect for you. So I think that's very telling. But leadership obviously starts at the top, but culture starts with leadership at the top. Does anybody recognise this phrase? Leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in our charge. Does anybody know who said that? Simon Sinek. Anybody heard of Simon Sinek? Yeah. I've got a bit of a man crush on Simon Sinek. To be fair, I think he's a great guy, and I know he gets a lot of pushback about what he says, and the people don't believe it works or whatever. And as he said, that's fine. You know, he's got a set of beliefs and principles, and a lot of them I do agree with. Especially the one where he goes in. If you go into any organisation and say, "Who's the dickhead in the room?" everybody will point round and point to somebody or know somebody, because in every organisation there's one. Sometimes there's more than one. But it's how that person is managed is how the culture dictates. It's, you know, your culture is defined by what your leadership will put up with in terms of bad behaviour. My view, people-centric, empathy, service, responsibility over the traditional notions of power and control. Servant leadership, very big believer in that. That's a little picture of that. Responsibility over power. Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Empowerment and growth, you have to empower your team. Talk about autonomy and pushing stuff into them, allowing them to grow. Building trust. Trust is key. I think trust was mentioned in a few of the things. And long-term success. In the engagement I'm in at the moment, I was chatting to a few people there, and they describe where they are like whack-a-mole. There's a problem, just fix the problem. There's a problem, just fix the problem. There's a problem, just fix the problem. There isn't that long-term success thinking. Like, okay, if we're fixing that, what else can we do? Or what, you know, how are we going to fix that and make sure it doesn't occur again? But no, the mole pops up, you whack it. The mole pops up, you whack it. So the problems come back. Culture suffers. People aren't invested. It's just death by 1,000 cuts. So always trying to think of the long-term success. And as a leader, your role is an enabler of success for the team rather than authority telling the team what to do. If your team is successful, you're successful. That's how you should measure yourself, not by how many people you can bully or intimidate or whatever. So it goes back to the challenge of leadership. And then again, my little buzzword, build environments where people can do the best work. So 5 dysfunctions of a team. Has anybody heard that or seen that before? For those that have, I won't spend too long on this, but I know. But Patrick Lencioni, and I'm not Italian, so I usually get his surname wrong. Usually there's an Italian in the room to put me right. But I fundamentally believe in the 5 principles he's got there. First thing you can do is build trust. Because if you don't have trust in the team, they won't be open, they won't talk to each other, they won't share. And it's moving from where everybody's guarded to everybody's open. Back to the psychological safety that you mentioned before, getting that in is building the trust so people can talk, they can be open. Resolve conflict, that's huge. Everywhere I've worked or been, resolving conflict actually builds the trust as well. You know, there's always somebody who'll say something in the room that people disagree with, but they won't challenge them or they won't talk about it because they don't feel like it's safe to do it. Or they don't want another argument because people argue for argue's sake. Commit as a team. Now, a lot of the work I've been doing is with companies that use Amazon and AWS, and there's one of their key leadership kind of traits. It's called have backbone, disagree, and commit as a team, which basically means you're not all going to agree on what to do. You're all going to have an opinion, but can you thrash it out on the table? There's trust there. If you get over the conflict, can you go, do you agree with this? Well, I don't for these reasons. Okay, but do you understand why? Yes. Can you get behind it? Can you get up and tell everybody, yeah, I back the team on this. I've had my say, and I will support it till the end. Are you the person in the team that sits there and laughs when it fails? I told you so. Or doesn't get on board, because that doesn't work. Hold each other accountable. How many teams or business do we know where people aren't held accountable? I'll do that. I'll get that done. Never does. And then finally, focus on results. Where's the business going? What business result do you want? Is it going to get us here? So it's very, very, very difficult to get a team or get an organisation that is strong in all 5 of those. But culture is grown and is growing from trying to adopt all those 5. Will it make the boat go faster? Has anybody read that book? What a great book that is. That is around the gold medal winning rowers, Olympic rowers from the British team. Because they figured out, we want to win the gold medal. How do we win the gold medal? Well, you need to have the quickest boat. Quite simple. So what was the vision? Have the quickest boat. So in everything about building trust, resolving conflict, commit as a team, holding each other accountable, focus on the results, everything they did was, will this make the boat go faster? If it won't, we shouldn't be doing it. It resolves arguments. You know, you can hold people accountable. If people's diet correct, are they putting the hours in the training, if they're doing whatever. So you don't look at them personally, you're letting the team down because you're not focusing on the goal. So everywhere I go, I say, what is your version of will it make the boat go faster? If you don't have one, you need to have one. Otherwise, every time somebody comes into work, what are they coming to work for? What's their purpose? What's the purpose of the team? Focus on what's important. Will it make the boat go faster? Focus on performance to get the results, and focus on working together. So probably a few football fans in the room. I always make a football analogy. How many times have you heard a football manager go, we lost today, but the performance was right? Quite a lot. I'm a Middlesbrough fan, so Carr does that a lot. Fortunately, the results aren't quite going where we want them to be. It did for Fargo at Leeds, obviously. But it's that. Don't always focus on winning all the time, but is the performance there? Because eventually, you get the performance there, the results will come. Trust the process. And work together effectively. That's the 3 things. If you know what's important, focus on performance and work together, the results will come. The culture will grow, the business will get the results they want, the team will become high performing. So I've got a tale from the trenches, as I call it. Sprint review of horrors. It's a tale. Might resonate with somebody. So first week, many moons ago, I was in a new head of role, and I was invited to a sprint review. Okay. Thought that's weird because we're not doing Scrum. I thought, well, I'll roll with it. It's the first couple of weeks. Maybe I might learn something. So it was all in the office. So I went in the office, probably about this size. I thought, well, hang on, I've only got a team of 5 at the minute. So five people came in. BA came in. Oh, hello. He went, oh yeah, I'm facilitating this. I went, okay, great. Then one by one, actually we ended up this amount of people in the room, one by one, more people started coming in. I was like, wow, a lot of people I don't know. And so I asked them to introduce themselves, and they came on, head of this, senior stakeholder here, this, that, and the other. And every time they walk in, the Delphi engineers start getting a bit more worried. I was like, well, this isn't going to go well, is it? So again, because I was early in my tenure there, I like watch and learn and take it all in. Again, everybody can learn something every day. And then the BA pulled out this wonderful spreadsheet and had a developer's name on. And it was all the work they're being assigned in their sprint. I've got to do that for a sprint. Is that right? And everybody in the room started to grill them when they explained what they'd done, why they hadn't done it, what problems they had. And even members of their own team started calling them out that they weren't doing it the right way. So I'm like going, okay, that's a challenge. Yeah, I mentioned that bit. So yeah, and it would just turn into a bit of a metaphorical bloodbath. And I was saying, oh, that's not so good. But the joy was it was only for an hour. So the pain, so the pain was over pretty quickly. So, but when kind of everybody was wrapping up, I asked the 5 team members of mine in the room to stay a little bit. And everybody in the room looked at me when I said that, looked at them, and they all started swagging off going, oh, those 5 are going to get a bollocking. I was like, okay. So they shut the door, went out, and I said, look, I am terribly sorry about what you've just been through. I might be new here, but I said that's on me. So, I'll look after you lot. I'm the leader. That will never happen again. because it just wasn't right. There was no psychological safety, there was no trust, there was no empowerment, there was no collaboration. I think the bit that startled me out of all of it was when the team turned on each other. Because you're kind of going, you know what, I am at war, we've got work to do here. So, retrospective of delight. There we go. And again, you'll understand why the wall's that full. It's not a real photo. But so we all know what a retrospective is. I won't dwell too much into that. But I thought, right, I need to give the team a voice because obviously I've been chatting to them and all. So I said, right. I said, trust me, I'm new. I'm here to help. Going to bring you in the room. We're going to lock ourselves away. And I said, I'd just like you to tell me overall what you enjoy about working here. You know, what's going well in your eyes. What don't you like? What isn't going well? And how can we improve it together? What's going well? 4 things. I was surprised. What's not going well? 110. And as you could tell, they started off a little bit, well, maybe not that. I said, okay, any more? That. Right, keep going. Keep going. They got a bit confidence in the room. We talked about it, and I went out and got some more stickies, and we went on. And honestly, that wasn't far away from what it was. So I thought, right, I asked them, how do we improve it? You know, I said, look, from an engineering background, I've managed teams and all that, but I said, how do you improve it? I said, you need to tell me what you need from me here, and I said, I'll try and make it happen. So they went, all right. First thing we did, shut the front door. Code freeze. Stop any requests coming in for 2 weeks. Right? And you think, oh, that's easy enough. Massive culture shift for me to go around and tell everybody, first of all, if you want anything done, you've got to come to me. Don't go and ring the developer team from 8 in the morning to 6 at night like they were doing. You know, it was really changed the culture of we're not doing anything for 2 weeks till we get our house in order. And actually, it helps me help get the bigger house in order as well. I asked for 4 weeks, I got 2. I took that. You know, all about knowing which battle to fight. After a little bit of convincing, I spoke to the team and said, you know what? Maybe you want a pull-based philosophy, that you pull work when you've got capacity, rather than you being told what to do and given a deadline, given loads of work that you've not scoped. Again, we did that. And no invisible work. That usually resonates with people. How many people work somewhere where they're like, oh, I'm working on this. Well, where's that written down? Who's asked you to do that? What value is that? Oh, invisible work was coming everywhere. So we put a block on invisible work. I mean, as we kind of peeled the onion a little bit, we found out that around 75% of the work was monthly recurring tasks that used to come in that was not for an engineering team to do. So we thought, well, how do we stop that problem? How do we stop the bleeding? Okay, well, we'll spend about a couple of days. We'll get stakeholders in the room. We'll find the problems out. We'll solve it. We created a support utility that allowed the second line to do direct data fixes under right conditions and everything else, and it cleared 75% of the backlog. And then I put in a weekly meeting with all interested stakeholders who wanted any work to do for the team. They'd come and they'd bring it to that meeting. We'd all have a chat, and I'd say to the stakeholders, what do you want? And I'd let them argue it out. Because for this company at this time, the engineering team were a delivery function. They would deliver what the business should need or the business wanted. They didn't make the call on what was important to the business like they were told to do before. Let the business make, let them prioritize it. Let them figure out what the strategy is. But yeah, and that worked. So what we ended up having was psychological safety, trust, empowerment, and collaboration. It didn't happen in a week. It took about 3 months, in all honesty, to kind of get us all into that. And it meant a lot of business change. But it's all about putting square pegs in square holes and round pegs in round holes. So what I would say is it's about small changes that make the big impact. So again, going back to what I mentioned at the start, don't believe any consultant that brings in with 300-page manual on how he's going to fix your business. Don't say you've got to go to SAFe, you've got to go to Scrum, you've got to go to Agile to fix all your problems. It really won't. It'll cause more problems than it's It really will. It keeps me in business. But it's figuring out what the pain points are and figuring out how to make environments where people can do the best work. You've probably got bored of saying that now. I think I've said it 5 times, so back to the point. But figure out what the biggest point is there. If it's, you know what, the teams aren't getting on, stop the work, bring them in, have a retrospective, talk it through, start to build the trust. Do it once. If it's this gentleman or this lady is the bottleneck because they know everything about everything, they need to be in every meeting, okay, ring fence them and figure out why they're being pulled everywhere and stop that from happening. Step up as a leader and stop that from happening. If everybody's in loads of pointless meetings, scrap the meetings that don't add value. As a leader, put yourself in the place, protect your team, let your team or individuals in your team be good at what they do, but do it slowly, do it at one point and let the culture change bed in. And then, that wasn't me, but as I mentioned before, turn it from the first picture where everybody's on the floor, everybody's tired, to here we are. We know what we're doing. Again, ChatGPT isn't great with text, but happy working environment, people are smiling. Some people wear sunglasses indoors. It's that kind of, they enjoy coming to work. Then they start owning the work. They start taking about the improvements they want. They start adding value. They start adding into the product. The product should have this direction. They start owning stuff because the trust's there, the collaboration's there, the psychological safety's there, the accountability's there. It slowly comes, but you've got to do it a little bit at a time. Big change doesn't stick. And making sure that the leadership understand what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. And change needs, small changes, but it needs to be constantly reinforced. It's the right thing to do. Even when it doesn't go right, because things can go wrong. So, being VE Day, a little one there, we need you. So, can you start having one real conversation in the next week with a team member about what's frustrating them? Can you remove one unnecessary process, one unnecessary meeting to help delivery get better in your organisation? And celebrate a win. Get some positivity, something for people to be, happy about in life, in the work. It's too much about just getting stuff done. And this is how you improve the culture one step at a time. It could be, great, something's built this week, great, get in, let's go and celebrate with chocolate biscuit. Or it could be something else, post it on Slack or the intranet or whatever. Start trying to bring some positivity and some good culture into the organisation. Because you'll be surprised by the fact how addictive it is once a few people start it. It starts to pick up and the culture change will start, as long as obviously the leadership's there and it's in the right place. But one final message is, great teams don't just happen, they're built. One conversation at a time, one decision at a time, one cultural shift at a time. There's no such thing as a high-performing team out the box. You've got to work together, you've got to do the hard yards together, and people have got to want to do it and be empowered from above to do it. So with that, thank you. Any questions?